Hey there, Girl Campers, and welcome back to the Girl Camper Podcast. I am your co-host, Lesa McDermott, and this is part 3 of our 3-part series on questions you should ask before buying a used RV. As I mentioned in our first 2 episodes, I recorded this interview with Mike Harlan from North Trail RV several months ago. And before we sat down, I sent him a list of very direct questions that many dealers probably would not have been excited to answer publicly. But Mike didn't shy away from any of them. And because of that, our conversation turned into one of the most honest and detailed discussions about buying a used RV that we've had in a long time. This interview did run a little bit long, so we split them into 3 parts. And this is the final episode, and we're getting into some of the most important topics of all. We're going to talk about how to choose the right dealer, why service capacity matters just as much as the sale itself, when there may or may not be room to negotiate on a used RV, what fees are normal, which ones should raise some eyebrows, and why financing deserves more attention than most buyers give it. We also spend time on inspections, when they're essential, what to look for in a qualified inspector, and why a dealer who refuses one should be a major red flag. So, if you made it this far in the season, this episode ties everything together. Let's jump back in to the conversation and get started.
If your travel trailer is uninsured, you could run into issues down the road. Protect your RV with Progressive. Quote online in as little as 4 minutes.
Well, and that's a good point. On your dealer, what are some things that a person should look for when they're choosing a dealer to buy, whether it's a new or used RV?
One, look at their service bays. Are they clean? Are they dirty? In passing, I would ask them, how many travel trailers or RVs do you sell a month? We sell 200. How many service bays do you have? We have 8. That's not a good ratio. Make sure that when in this environment, in today's environment, this big wave of what happened during COVID and what happened in the Southeast with hurricane, this big wave of RV sales that took place between 21 and 24 or 23, that wave of sales equaled about the previous 12 to 14 years.
Wait, those 3 years
Yes,
total were 14 years worth of RV sales?
that is correct. Oh, so how does a dealer prepare themselves for this big wave of this service that's coming in? It's hard. And that's why a lot of dealerships, when you're calling and making an appointment, I need a new axle. Okay, we can get you in about 86 days. That's the norm. That's the norm in today's service environment. Of course, any reputable dealer is for a life-saving thing. Let's say you're in South Florida and your air's not working, or you have a propane leak. They're going to get you in right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get you in right now because those are things that are severely hurt you. But the normal maintenance, that stuff, I don't care. I've owned 2 dealerships. One of them I had 4 service bays, and one of them I had 6 service bays. And I sold about 100 units a month. That doesn't add up. You can't service your clientele as much as you're selling them. And they're going to need you 10 times more after you sell than before they bought. They're going to need you 10 times more because one day that air conditioner is not going to cycle on. One day, parts break down. Even new parts break down.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure they have the service capacity to handle you giving them your hard-earned money. What
Mhm.
do I do? What if I'm to Perry, New Mexico?
Huh.
Find a dealership that has a broad range of partners out there, or a um, a product. Like, there's several dealership products, but um, we belong to one. I'm trying to figure out a way not to say the name, but um, we belong to one that's we pay each of our units to go into, and if they if someone's at Chico, New Mexico, and their air conditioning's out, they can go into a dealership and say, yeah, we're 3 weeks out, park it over there, we'll get to it. But if you're in this particular offering that a lot of dealers buy into, you would be next. You would be next, not 3 weeks out. You would be next. So see if they have those things, and they shouldn't charge you for those things. Those things should come with your purchase.
Wow. Wow. Well, we're talking about used RVs, so that's probably more on the new RV side,
No, even used.
even used. Wow. That's very cool. That's really, yeah. So when buying a used RV, is there a seasonal time of the year when it might be a better deal?
Yes, and it's going to be by region. So right now, the camping season or the buying season, and say your neck of the woods,
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Sorry, I didn't want to say where it was, but it's the buying season's starting to dwindle down, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you probably had some blazing days, but you probably had some cool nights.
Yeah.
But by region, the buying season in the Midwest is pretty much done right now, because kids are back at school, and the excitement level of getting that RV out, they went through that all summer. So as those wind down, the South picks up. So Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, Texas, people start migrating from, starting at about Halloween, they start migrating south like birds. And then though that area starts to pick up in sales. Right now we're in South Florida, where it's Africa hot right now. It's there's nobody buying right now. So, we're this time of season, we're getting all of our required education taken care of. We're getting people in and out of service as fast as we can right now. So this is, a lot of the people migrating north that are still up there. So our demand for service is not as high right now as it has been. But come Thanksgiving, we have 110 service bays here. And come Thanksgiving, we're gonna be at a 30-day wait.
Wow.
Right now we're at about a 10-day.
And is there more negotiation room on a used RV compared to a new one?
Um, typically, I'm going to tell you that the new one will have more negotiating availability. It's kind of the reverse thought process. You have a set cost that you're buying from a manufacturer, but that new manufacturer needs you to sell X amount a year to get dealerships, just like the car business. The manufacturer will say you need to sell 120 of these in a year, and then we'll get you dealer holdback. If you reach the 120 sales, if that was your goal, then the dealer will cut you a check after you've achieved that in one calendar year. They'll cut you a check back for $500 a unit or $1,000 a unit.
Oh,
So they have got to get to a point where they have to move those, and they'll negotiate those down to almost nothing on a new one. And on the used ones, most consumers' thought process is going to be, I can negotiate that down more because it's pre-used, it's pre-owned, it's pre-loved, it's used.
Mhm.
In fact, the dealer makes more money on the used than they do new. I'm going to say 95 out of 100 makes more money on used than they do new.
Huh. That's super interesting. Are there any extra fees that are attached to a used RV that are different from new RV fees?
Typically, you're going to have whatever the state allows. When I left Ohio, the max a dealer fee would be $250. That dealer fee is typically under your contract written out as this would include maybe reconditioning fees. Some of it might be profit to the dealer. Some of it might be sales associated fees, and such as paperwork. There may be a state that, you have to use forms. Let's say you have to use a state title form or a state exchange of title form, and the state can charge you for those forms as a dealer. So you're allowed to take those fees that you paid for that pack of 200 and associate that in your dealership documentation fee. Okay.
Okay.
There are some dealers that say have no fees, no dealer fee. Well, I fell off the turtle truck, but it wasn't yesterday. And I know they're making that in their sales price. It is a very laid out process, but most states have a limit on that fee. Florida, I think it's like $1,900 for a dealer fee that you can go up to. There's some states, I think I was in Indiana and they had $135 for me. But it is driven. It's state driven to the point where they say it can't be any more than this. But just keep in mind, if they don't have that fee, then it's probably built into the price. If they have, our documentation fee also includes our dealer prep. If you're buying a used vehicle, we're filling it of new propane. You're not just on what's there. We're cleaning and sanitizing the tank. You don't want to be carrying around someone else's waste. Okay.
Yeah.
These are some of the uglies. You got to talk about the uglies and the uncomfortables because they're out there.
Yeah.
Do you want someone to prep that and say, oh, wait, this water pump, it's just not sounding right. We probably ought to put a new water pump in it. People come in and say, well, I'll buy it for your price, but I'm not paying that dealer prep fee. I'm not paying that fee. Do you not want someone to look that thing over again the second time and say, hey, this is functioning the way it's supposed to? There's a reason for them, and it's not just profit. There's a reason for those. A sales department, the service department isn't there just to do favors for the sales department. They are there to supply a paycheck to the people that's making sure your unit is correct. And that has nothing to do with sale. It's an entity all of its own. And, people say, I'll do this, but I want 2 lounge chairs and I want some koozies for the campsite. I can't go to that manager and say, hey, I need you to give this stuff away. He's going to think I got rocks in my hair.
Yeah.
But there are fees. Not everybody has them, but they are there for one reason or another, and they are state approved. Just keep that in mind. They are state approved. If you're, let's say you've got a $900 fee, and I think ours is $950 or $980, something like that. and we could go to almost 2,000. But think about the people that are doing that job. Think about if it's a motorhome, how much does it cost to fill that motorhome up with fuel?
Yeah.
Not that, that's in that truck fee. That's in that. I mean, there's sometimes that we have a diesel pusher that we collect $9.85 as a dealer prep, and that includes all the propane, all the fuel. It may be $1,000 to fill that thing up with diesel. If it's got, let's say it's got 100-gallon tank, at $3.85 a gallon wholesale, but you're at $1,300. So
Yeah.
just the fuel alone is more than that. Keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys are fairly transparent on what your dealer prep fee covers. And I think that's important, because Lord knows there are some dealers out there that are very predatory and they love those first time buyers and they don't really care if they are a repeat customer or about the service. It's all about the sale. And, that's
Be many more true the next statement that you just made. In regards to that, I'm personal friends. I don't know anybody in a dealership in Alaska or Hawaii, but there's probably 5 or 6 states I'm not friends with somebody in the ownership in this industry. And there are people that I would not give my hard-earned money to.
Yeah.
And there are people that I wouldn't question giving my hard-earned money to. I think we started out, I said, be truthful to your dealer and expect your dealer to be truthful with you. A lot of people make a big mistake by saying, I'm going to get my best price, then I'm going to tell them about my trade. You're always going to be disappointed with your trade number if you're not upfront with it. Maybe you're going to be a little less disappointed with your trade number if you're upfront with it. Just be truthful. Yeah, they're going to earn your business. They're going to earn it. And I would give the biggest thing on buying a travel trailer or a motorhome and you have a trade-in. Look at the trade difference. Look at what the sale price is minus yours, because the difference is what it's all about. You're never going to be a consumer who get retail value for your trade and buy theirs at wholesale. That teeter-totter is one-sided. It doesn't work. You can say, hey, look, I'll pay your retail, but I want retail for mine. Or I'll accept wholesale value on mine if you're discounting yours. It's got to be fair to both parties. And again, I'm a consumer first. I was buying goods before I ever got to this business. So I'm a consumer first. And it has to work that way, or that dealer that you're anticipating servicing your unit is not going to be able to survive.
Yeah. Yep. So financing, I mean, a lot of people finance their RVs, and should people shop around for used RV financing, or is the dealer financing usually really competitive?
Well, I was vice president of lending for 2 banks, right? And I'm going to say to you, shame on you if you do not shop around on your own. I would do whoever you have your depository relationships with, your checking accounts, your savings accounts, your favorite credit union, shirk those sources. Even a bank, let's say a dealership says, hey, great news. I got you approved at 799. Okay, where's that at? Okay, it's at Huntington Bank. Okay, it's at Huntington Bank. So you call Huntington Bank, and they're going, yeah, I can get you 799. The difference is the bank that you call on the retail side, that's their rate. The rate that comes to dealership is a wholesale rate. But both are paid the same. If someone in your bank quotes you this rate, that same bank has to quote the same price to the dealership. But the dealership is committing to so many dollars to that lender. And so that lender will pay the person that's doing your loan. That lender will pay that person the same money that they're going to be paying the bank. That's going to be their bonus at the bank. But every bank is different. Some banks have depository accounts that exceed their loans, so they do not have to borrow money from the Federal Reserve Bank. When you borrow money from the Federal Reserve Bank, you have obligations as a lending institution that you're going to loan this much to minorities, this much to women, this much to Hispanic, and those. If you borrow overnight Fed funds, if you're a bank and you borrow from the Federal Reserve, that money is collected every night or dispersed at 11:59 p.m. So there are banks that are fighting for every dollar to come in, whether it's on the wholesale side or the retail side, and they have that payment. If you're borrowing from the bank borrows Federal Reserve money, they're paying that money back at midnight that night. They want to make sure to have it done then. So, let's say it's the last day of the month, you might have the best deal from the dealer. If you've got a bank or a credit union on your own that you have an established relationship with, they may have the deposits to lend that money out without having to worry about paying back the Federal Reserve. So their rate, that's why a lot of times a credit union rate is less than a dealership rate or a bank rate, because it's a share. It's a pool of money from its member. So they're paying the member this much for a CD or money in savings, and they're loaning it out at a profit and paying them dividends on that money. Historically, a credit union is going to be less term than a bank. So most credit unions are going to top out at 180 months. Okay, most lenders for an RV, if it's 50,000 or more, are going to be 240 months. So it makes something a little more affordable. Maybe it's 0.5% higher rate, but you have 240 months instead of 180. And it may make $150 difference a month in payment.
Well, thanks for explaining that. I've always heard about credit unions having the better loan rates, and I never looked into why that would be, and now that makes perfect sense. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's my passion, by the way. My degree is in risk management, so that's my passion.
Oh, I worked in risk management. I'm a lawyer, and that was my specialty, was self-insured trucking companies and their risk management programs. So there you go. We got more in common than we realized, Mike.
Because self-insurance and reinsurance made sense to you, didn't it?
It did. Yeah, you were speaking my language there. Yep. You touched on, I want to back up a little bit. You touched on having an inspector come and take a look at a unit. What if the dealer, and I totally believe in that, especially used ones. And there's so many great resources out there now to find RV inspectors, whether they're trained by the RVTI or the school down in Texas. But what if a dealer or a private seller refuses to allow one? Should that be a deal breaker for somebody?
Run away. If they're afraid of what a trained professional is going to buy. Most dealers, there's dealers that have a fear of them coming. Oh my gosh, they're gonna pick this thing apart. Good inspectors will tell you that you're looking at a 5-year-old unit. It's not going to perform as new, but it should perform. Good dealers, that will not bother them at all. But most dealers, I'm going to go back to my risk management side. Most dealers don't check the license of the inspector. You have to. You have to make sure that they have a license in your state, because some of the inspectors will travel the state as the seasons change to stay in a warm environment. So a lot of these inspectors are mobile.
Right.
Find an inspector that's licensed in your state. Find out if there's licensed and bonded, because if you're putting your hard-earned money to an inspector to tell you if this thing is worth your money or not, then you want to go back to somebody, hey, I paid you to inspect this. I got 35 miles down the road and axle broke. Why? How could you have not found that? Make sure that they're licensed and bonded so you have a resource to go back to.
Hmm.
And say, you're not going to go back to the dealer, because the dealer's going to go, well, you bring somebody to tell us what's wrong with it. You know, that's who you trust. That's who you should go after if something happened to you. But we welcome any good dealer is going to welcome any RVTI trained or that school in Texas, which is a very good school, do a very good job in preparing their inspectors for what to look for. The only thing that we ask separately is that we need to be on your insurance when you're on our lot. What if you fall off the roof of that, you damage, your ladder falls and hits another unit?
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure you're licensed, bonded, and insured. The consumer needs to make sure they're licensed and insured. So they know it's not a fly-by-night person. It's easy to put on Facebook Marketplace, RV inspections, $3.99, whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of like home builders up here where I live. We don't, most places don't require licensing, and
Then there's some states, Florida was the first one, and I think either Texas or Alabama's joined it. Now you have to be licensed and LP gas. If you are going to operate as an inspector or technician on a furnace, a gas range, a gas water heater, you have to go through LP licensing training, and it's a separate license. And we don't have to do it as dealers in Florida just to dispense, but we also have all these employees. So we have employees that are licensed to do LP work and other ones that are not. So in that particular state, let's say you are in Florida and the inspector, you need to ask them, are you licensed for LP? Because if not, they're just going to skip part of your inspection. And a good inspector should be there 3 to 5 hours. It's not a half-hour job. It's not an hour job.
Right. They have, a huge checklist that they go through, or a good one does, at least. Like dozens of pages. So I
can tell what inspectors went to the school in Texas because they all use that software. And that software actually makes them check it off before it will allow them to go to the next item.
Oh.
It's very good. It's very, very.
NRVTA, I think that's the Texas school. Did I get that right?
You're right, yes.
NRVTA. We always call it the Little Red Schoolhouse for some reason, so I wanted to make sure I got the acronym right. But there's a lot of girl campers that have gone through that to become inspectors and technicians, and we've done a different podcast on that too, that those are some good career opportunities for women looking for a second income or a second job to be doing. So, yeah.
It most certainly is. It's the fastest growing portion of the RV industry right now is inspection services. Just make sure it's not, inspected by my neighbor's uncle who had an RV before. Make sure they are licensed and bonded technician, and you're allowed to ask for their certification.
Yeah.
Say, hey, please send me an email telling me what it's going to cost and include your certification.
Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. So let's kind of wrap up on some final advice here. What is one question buyers almost never ask, but they should when they're buying a used RV?
Um, Most people only ask about what they can visually see. Most people never ask about the condition of the roof. It's always, I'd say 99% of the time, if they can't see it, it's not in their mind.
Mm.
But that's going to be your number one source of water infiltration. And ask, do we know about the roof? Can I see the roof? A lot of dealers aren't going to allow you to walk on it because if you fall and you're on their property, they now have a suit against you. But ask, can I see the roof? Either ask them to bring a man lift out there, or at least put a ladder secure up against the coach so you can get up and see the roof. If you see the stains from water puddling standing, you're going, oh, it's not leaking. Yeah, it's probably holding that water there. Remember what it's like in a swimming pool. It feels really good when you go in, but even in the sun and your hands right at the water level, the water and the sun together is really hot.
Yeah.
So that whatever your roof is made of, aluminum, TPO, or rubber, that should be the first focus of your question. Again, people aren't looking at it. They can't see it. It's out of their mind.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. If you had to give one piece of advice to a used RV shopper in 5 words or less, what would it be?
Don't fall on your sword. Don't tell them what you're willing to pay.
Very good. All right, Mike, before we let you go, we're switching gears. We're going to do something totally fun here with some non-RV questions. This is just for our fun rapid fire session. These are short answers only and no overthinking. Are you ready? Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Morning person or night owl?
Oh, morning.
Book or movie?
Movie.
Who's on your road trip playlist?
Bob Seger.
And if you could instantly master one new skill, what would it be?
Being able to smile when I want to smile. I a lot of times I hold a smile back. I wish I could smile any time that I wanted to, but sometimes it doesn't mean that it's time to smile, and I can't help but find humor.
Good one. Well, thanks for playing along. Now, now we all know more of the important stuff about you, like your snack preferences and your smile deficiency, I guess.
There you go. There you go.
Mike, it is always a pleasure having you on the Girl Camper podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
That brings us to the end of part 3 on our questions to ask when buying a used RV. I want to thank Mike Harlan from North Trail RV for being willing to answer tough questions honestly and for sharing insights that truly helps buyers protect themselves and their investments. If you haven't already, be sure to go back and listen or watch episode 1, where we covered early mistakes and red flags, and episode 2, where we dug into inspections, pricing, and what as is really means. Together, these 3 episodes give you a complete framework for buying a used RV with confidence. And if you're also considering buying a new RV, Mike and I recorded a separate 3-part series on questions to ask when buying a new RV, which is currently live on both our YouTube channel and our podcast platforms. But before you go, don't forget, like and subscribe our videos and our channel. Leave us a review. Join Girl Camper so you can come to one of our many events across the country. And until next time, I'm Lesa McDermott with Girl Camper, and I will catch you by the campfire.